This is Inside the Locker Room, where football isn't just a game, it's a war zone. Every take, unfiltered. Every prediction, ruthless. From Sunday battles to primetime legends. We break down the matchups, the mind games, and the moments that define champions. Fantasy, film, trash talk, all inside the locker room. So if you came for smoke, you're in the fire now.
We are back with another episode of Inside the Locker Room, episode 36 at that. And if you didn't check out the last episode, our collab with Inside the Red Zone with MJ, make sure you check that out. And Ben also did just appear on an episode with them as well. Make sure you check that out. Me and Michael just dropped a collab episode with two UAPB basketball players yesterday. Make sure you check that out. But present day, we are here and it is a good one. But the breaking news to start the segment off, Bill Belichick was not announced as a first ballot Hall of Famer. Adam, I'm gonna let you start off with this. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, there's been a ton of outrage in the entire sports community, myself included. To me, he would have been a unanimous Hall of Famer if the votes were made public, if you didn't have a bunch of people voting anonymously. So, I mean, to me, it's like possibly the most egregious snubbing of a first ballot coach and maybe anyone in general going to the Hall of Fame. It's literally inconceivable. Like all of the other coaches, I think there's only 3 or 4 of them that have ever made the Hall of Fame in the first ballot, and the most is Chuck Noll with 4 Super Bowl rings, and Bill Belichick has 6 as a head coach, plus he has 2 on top of that when he was an assistant as well. So I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. Basically, like if you're setting this standard and you're setting this precedent, then basically you can't have another head coach ever become a first ballot Hall of Famer, which is it's crazy. Like it's like tarnishing the Hall of Fame, honestly. And like some people are talking about like boycotting it and just like, hey, just nobody show up. Like it's crazy.
Ben, what are your thoughts on this? Because you were just talking about this earlier. You did send a post in the group chat. You said, in fact, I'm gonna let you explain it.
So there was actually a statement coming out from the Hall of Fame committee, basically just saying that I guess they knew that they kind of messed up, but people are still gonna be accounted for, I guess, if they do break the rules that they have set in place. So maybe it was because of the Deflategate, scandal that we have. Maybe there was still salt on that wound because, there is a lot of people from Indy that are involved with the Hall of Fame committee over there in Canton, Ohio. But as far as Bill Belichick's track record goes, there's zero question that he should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. I mean, he coached New England for 24 years, and in, I believe, 9 of those seasons, he either won the AFC Championship or just won the Super Bowl outright. So in pretty much half of your seasons, basically a 50-50 shot of winning the Super Bowl, that's first ballot to me.
Michael, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, honestly, I'm just surprised and baffled by just hearing that report. I didn't even know that was the report of the day. Look, first of all, let me say I truly honor and respect Bill Belichick for 1, his coaching mindset, and 2, his teaching on what he did for New England. Basically, Bill Belichick built New England and got them to the bowl and the success that they were made with Tom Brady alongside with him. But the reasons for him not being the first ballot Hall of Famer, while Bill Belichick is widely considered one of the greatest head coaches of all time, with the record of 8 Super Bowl titles, and several factors reportedly influenced voters to pass over him in his first year eligibility. 1 is voting dynamics. Y'all, under a recent rule change, coaches need to be retired for only 1 season, making the 2026 class Bill Belichick's first year of eligibility. The specific voting rules for the coach, contributor, and the senior candidates grouped Bill Belichick with 4 other finalists. And then voters could only select up to 3 from that group, potentially leaning some to prioritize the senior players who might have fewer future opportunities. And then the second thing is controversies. Some voters are reportedly cited to be Spygate and Dafflegate scandals as reasons to withhold their vote of the first year for his first year. Penalties from these insights included large fines, forfeit of draft picks, and a suspension for Tom Brady, which some committee members felt warranted a delay in his dysfunction. And then also, last thing is voter strategy. Some voters choose to prioritize other diversity candidates, such as senior finalists, believing Bill Belichick's eventually induction was inevitable in a future year. But here's another thing. Here's a good thing. But it's not fair, but it's a good thing. Bill Belichick will be eligible for reconsideration in the 2027 Hall of Fame class. It should not take next year for him to be in the Hall of Fame. He should be in this one. But I think there's been a lot of negative mind people who don't like Bill Belichick, and he, regardless of his coaching resume and regardless of his success, it's just a hatred towards him. Why? Yeah. I don't. But I don't think it's fair. He should be in.
I agree. Look, I think some people in the voters committee they're holding it against him for past scandals. But this is my thought on this. I mean, I think he already served it. He's already served it while coaching for the Patriots. He had his suspensions, he's had his fines. We saw even Tom Brady got the fine, and Tom Brady still it's people are going to still give him the first ballot Hall of Fame because what he did on the field. But why is that criteria different for Bill Belichick? Without a doubt, we all know Bill Belichick should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. And if I'm the committee, and if I'm just Roger Goodell, I'm looking at the committee and I'm just thinking y'all should just look at yourself and say, what y'all have did today is just going to be a bad look on the committee here going forward. Because people are not, people are going to be saying, so now what considers a first ballot Hall of Famer if you're not going to let Bill Belichick go in? Like Adam stated, he probably has one of the greatest track resumes out of all the other first ballot head coaches, and he's not in. And it's not said because of past scandals and stuff like that, but I think people that are obvious football fans and people have watched football just kind of know why. But that's pretty much my stance on this. But the next thing I do want to talk about on our topic is the conference championship recap. First I want to talk about is the Seahawks and the Rams. Adam, we do got you today. Let us start off with you, because I told you from the get-go that I basically had Seattle going to the championship the second they were in the playoffs due to that defense. And once again, the defense proved themselves right now. It was a closer game against the Rams, but the Seahawks, they prevailed all the way to the end. But Adam, what are your thoughts on this?
Great game, first of all. I'll start with the Seahawks side. Darnold silenced all of the doubters. People, every single game of the playoffs, even every single game of the regular season, they're like, yeah, the defense is good, but it's all going to be on Darnold. It's all going to be on Darnold. And first game of the playoffs against the 49ers, they didn't need him. He only needed to throw for 125 yards. But this past game, 346 yards and 3 touchdowns. He needed every ounce of that. It was still within one score. Seahawks needed every little bit. JSN was incredible for the Seahawks. Stafford was great too. But it's awesome to see for Darnold to, like I said, silence all the doubters. Now he's going to become the first USC quarterback to go to a Super Bowl, which is crazy because the USC's had the most quarterbacks drafted in NFL history. But yeah, Stafford was also really good with 374 yards, 3 touchdowns. Became the first player to not win a game with that margin or with that those stats. Puka, typical Puka Nacua, was amazing for the Rams. Basically, it's kind of that huge muff punt play. Forget exactly, I think it was Xavier Smith, but that was absolute huge turning point. There's not too many mistakes in the game otherwise, just back and forth scoring. Really entertaining to watch. But yeah, that sucks for him, honestly, with that it had to be on the muff punt. But Seahawks gain, and yeah, it's going to be an incredible Super Bowl. I know we'll get into the actual Super Bowl in a little bit, so I won't spoil it too much. But yeah, Seahawks go in as the favorite, so it's going to be exciting.
Ben?
Yeah, it was a defensive battle that we saw from Seattle. Their defense ultimately came through once again, as it has all season. And we're going to be getting, I guess, the battle of the mics here in the Super Bowl with head coach Mike Vrabel over there on New England side, and then Mike McDonald there on Seattle. I just want to, praise also the Seattle, front office for hiring Mike McDonald. That's clearly been a huge home run hiring for them. And I know a lot of Ravens fans as well wish that they still had him on their staff, because arguably people were saying that if Mike McDonald was still on the Ravens staff, that they would go even farther last year and this year. So huge props to them. And then also huge props to Sam Darnold, of course. I mean, the only quarterback from the 2018 class to make it to the Super Bowl. And I feel like depending on how he plays in the Super Bowl and if he wins it, I feel like we're gonna have very uncomfortable conversations about Sam Darnold and where we have him in our rankings. Because at that point, if you look at it like this, he would have the same amount of playoff wins as Lamar Jackson. So that right there as a stat is just, interesting to see, and we'll see how he plays in a couple weeks.
Michael, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, first and foremost, it was a very, very competitive NFC and AFC game. But the game I liked the most was the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams. First and foremost, I want to take this time to give a shout out to my guy, Rashid Shaheed, and Clint Kubiak, who was former Saints offensive coordinator and our still my wide receiver one, Rashid Shaheed. Speed kills. I think he's gotten Seattle has gotten very comfortable with him and his progression and just the whole team in general. And I'm really really happy that the Seattle Seahawks took care of the Rams because I just honestly I just knew going into the playoffs that when you play in Seattle, it's hard to win in Seattle, and that's 12th man all the way. It's impossible to beat Seattle in at that stadium. That's just how it's been for years to come. But as far as the NFC Championship game go between the Seattle Seahawks and Los Angeles Rams, the Seattle Seahawks secured their trip to the Super Bowl with a thrilling 31-27 victory in the divisional rival Los Angeles Rams at Lumen Field in Seattle. Both quarterbacks had strong performances, with Sam Darnold throwing for 364 yards and 3 touchdowns for Seattle Seahawks, and Matthew Stafford throwing 374 yards for the Rams. A key fourth down stop by the Seahawks defense late in the game helped seal the win. Basically, the second half was just the fourth quarter in general was scoreless altogether. Both defenses took care of each offense, keeping both offenses from scoring a single point in the fourth quarter, which I think is impressive on defensive side of the ball. But when you talk about the positives and the negatives, Sam Darnold, flawless performance. Like I said, 364 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. Seattle's clutch defense. Seattle made a pivotal game alternating plays when it mattered most. Rookie Nick, I don't know how to say his name. I'm just gonna say Mr. Nick on this one. Had 2 key pass breakups late in the second quarter to force a punt, leading to a go-ahead touchdown before halftime. Second thing, explosive offense. Both offenses showcased high-powered offenses combining over 875 total yards and providing an exciting competitive game. The Rams in particular had a high rate of explosive plays. Now, also, here's another thing. Cooper Kupp's crucial catch against his former team, Seattle Seahawks receiver Cooper Kupp made a vital third down catch late in the fourth quarter, extending the drive that burned over 4 minutes off the clock to secure the win. I would go into the negatives, but I'm not going to do that for the sake of time. But in this game, as far as the NFC Championship goes, it was very competitive, y'all. Defenses showed out. Offenses, performed well. Matthew Stafford known to have turnover problems, but he took care of that in the NFC Championship game. So it's a plus for both sides. But I think both quarterbacks, just proved their elite passing.
I agree. And look, I'm gonna say this really quick. We gotta give our props to Sam Darnold. There's a lot of great QBs in this quarterback class, and we're gonna talk about this in a bit. But the fact that Sam Darnold ultimately went from basically getting picked JJ McCarthy over him after he had led the Vikings to one of their best seasons in recent years from last year. And then, Seattle gets him. And look, I told this to Adam. I said, Sam Darnold's going to be perfectly fine under Mike McDonald. And what did that tell you? They took themselves all the way to the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold and Ben just literally told you, if Sam Darnold wins this, we are going to be having some uncomfortable talks. And that means the fans of Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, they're going to have, but y'all gonna have a lot. Y'all gonna have a lot. Y'all gonna have to defend yourselves. But the one thing I do want to talk about next is this Broncos Patriots game. One thing I did say, I feel like the Patriots got an easy walk to Super Bowl due to Bo Nix being out. And I said this on the collab or the joint episode last week. Whoever's in the championship game against the Broncos was just going to get an easy felt like was going to get they're going to have the easiest path to the Super Bowl because they didn't have a quarterback. But let me say this: the Broncos defense did come to play. The fact that they were able to keep themselves in the game with the Patriots for so long. I do feel like Jarrett Stidham did make some costly plays that ultimately sold their season. I believe it was like in the fourth quarter, he just threw a pick out of nowhere. It was like on one of the final drives. Stuff like that doesn't happen. But I honestly believe if Bo Nix was in, the Broncos would have been in the Super Bowl. And I think that would have been a closer matchup for Seattle. I'm not gonna get my Super Bowl predictions yet, but honestly, I just think that the Broncos they got caught out of luck with Bo Nix's injury. But next year, Bo Nix is gonna be back, hopefully in time for the start of the season. He'll get more players through the draft. They got a good amount of picks. And they got a good enough money in cap room in the free agency class, so they can go out there and invest and just keep building around Knicks and keep upgrading that defense. So, Adam, what are your thoughts on this?
I was saying most of the week leading up to it that I thought it would end up being a really close game. A lot of people were kind of selling the Broncos short. Their defense was legitimate. It's one of the best forces in the NFL for a reason. And then, to everyone's surprise, I think it was the very first possession, maybe if not the first or second, Jarrett Stidham comes right down the field, puts the Broncos on the board 7-0. Unfortunately, that was the last points that they scored the entire game. But it was kind of like a tale of two halves because there was no snow in the first half, and then all of a sudden it just turned into like a blizzard. Start second half, so ended up being this crazy snow-filled game. Then, like I said, the Broncos didn't score the rest of the game. Probably the biggest things that cost them the game, they missed 2 field goals. Can blame a lot of that on the weather, but at the end of the day, if they were able to make those, then we could be having a really different conversation. And then probably the biggest one towards the end, at the end of the game, when Sean Payton goes for it on 4th down instead of kicking a field goal, which would have tied the game. And considering the Patriots didn't put any more points on the board, who knows? We could be talking about overtime or something like that. So it is miscues because of the weather. Jarrett Stidham, did maybe make some costly plays, but I do think maybe they were definitely better off with having Bo Nix, but I'm not sure that they would necessarily have made it. But you never know with all those variables with snow and everything. But yeah, it ended up being a very close game. It was 10-7 Patriots in the end. Drake May did just enough. But it's the bootleg up the middle and scores the touchdown. So he didn't necessarily look like MVP Drake May, but yeah, did enough to win, and now he's moving on to the Super Bowl.
Ben?
Yeah, you'd have been lying if you would say that, the weather didn't affect this game at all. We saw the Denver Broncos absolutely shank their field goal attempts, and, can't really put much blame on the kicker or special teams because, snow is just hard to play in football. It's just a fact of the matter. We saw how different the Rams offense looked last week in Chicago. So for both teams, it's definitely a factor because they both have to play in it, whether you have home field advantage or not. But Drake May getting to the Super Bowl in his second year is just kind of insane to me. So the Patriots, their fans have just been fondled their whole life. The luckiest fan base in all of sports, in my opinion. But as far as the Broncos go, Jarrett Stidham outthrew Drake May. It wasn't by like some huge margin or anything, but like if you would have told me that before the game, I would have called you crazy but he did have a decent game here as a backup. And, for a second there after that first drive, like you said there, Adam, after you do that, lob to Cortland Sutton, I believe it was. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was going to be a long day possibly for the Patriots. I got a little scared there, but ultimately Stidham throws a pick at the end of the game to kind of seal the deal for the Broncos' fate. And then now we have our beautiful matchup of the rematch of the Patriots and Seahawks. Michael, what did you think about the Patriots and Broncos game? I mean, it was another great head coaching matchup between Sean Payton, obviously somebody that you're very familiar with, and then we had Mike Vrabel going against him.
Michael, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I agree with you, Ben, as well on that. This game had two things on my mind. As I'm looking at the box score here, guys, the Broncos only scored one touchdown throughout the entire game. They didn't score in the second quarter. They didn't score in the third. They didn't even score in the fourth, which also shows you that how elite New England's defense just was, and just how good they are in the playoffs to hold to just one touchdown throughout the entire game. In the first, they would only score one touchdown in the first half. In the second half, they're completely scoreless. Now, as far as Sean Payton goes, it's one thing I know about Sean that he's going to take chances. I think he should just kick the field goal, but it's one thing I know about Sean Payton.
You're okay.
He's going to go for it. It wasn't no surprise to me that he went,
buddy.
Because that's just in my mind. He's still the same Sean Payton, because back when he was in New Orleans, there were crucial times to where he would go for it instead of kick field goals, or he would kick field goals instead of go for it. So it's kind of 50-50 with Sean Payton. But despite of all that, I just think that, Denver wouldn't have scored one touchdown if Bo Nix wouldn't have gotten hurt. Now, when Bo Nix comes back, it's going to add more fuel to the fire to him, because the fact that you are able to miss the NFC Championship game due to an injury, that's going to have him more hungry to come back, especially for him and for Denver and for Sean Payton. So I just think that, I don't think this is the end of Denver making the playoff run or making the AFC Championship run in general. But I would just be on the lookout for Bo Nix, because this isn't the end of him. And New England, they took advantage of the quarterback situation. If they didn't, this game would have been a whole lot different. Even though, the quarterback that they had, I can't think of his name right now, but even though he was a backup quarterback, I still just did not sleep on him, because I honestly felt like he had something that a lot of people were not seeing. But like I said, New England took advantage of that situation. Now, like I said before, Denver in greedy situations, the defensive battle at Empire Field at Mile High in Denver, like you just said, Adam, winter weather affected the game, particularly in the second half, leading to a low final score. Patriots quarterback Drake May rushing ability, including the team's only touchdown, was a decisive factor. Now, as far as the AFC Championship goes, I'm just going to list out the positives here for the second time. One, Patriots defensive dominance. Guys, the Patriots defense was exceptional, only allowing 7 points. And like I just said before, shutting down the Broncos offense for the most of the game at the initial long pass play. They forced two key turnovers, a fumble and an interception, and held Denver to just 32 yards in the second half. Number two, Drake May's rushing ability. The Patriots quarterback Drake May's scrambling ability was a decisive factor, accounting for only 65 rushing yards. Here's the thing. That's more than his passing yards. New England's only touchdown, his critical third down runs sealed the victory and kept the drives alive. Next thing, Patriots clutch special teams. Despite of some missed kicks, the Patriots special teams made a game alternating play with a field goal block by Leonard Taylor III late in the fourth quarter that preserved their 3-point lead. Last thing, Broncos defense excellence. Now, even though the game was close, you can't really sleep on Denver's defense. Because like you just said, Adam, Denver's defense also played a factor. It was really a defensive battle in the AFC and the NFC Championship game. If that's how you want to look at it. Let's just call it like that. It was a defensive battle all around. The Denver's defense played championship level game, recording 5 sacks and limiting the Patriots to only 86 passing yards. Now, I don't know if that's the average low this season, but in my opinion, I believe it is, because the fact that you hold New England to only 86 passing yards, that doesn't come easy. And then here's another thing. A single touchdown that came off a short field after a turnover. To sum all that up, guys, this game would have probably been a lot worse than what it was. 1, if it wasn't for Winter Mix. 2, if it was for Denver's quarterback injury situation. 3, if Sean Payton was just a little bit more aggressive with his play calling. Instead of going for it, he should just kick the field goal. But that's one thing about Sean Payton. He is aggressive. He's going to go for it no matter how close or how far he is. So that's just what that was. But I don't think this is the end of Denver at all.
Me either. But speaking of Super Bowls matchups now, what's y'all's prediction in the Super Bowl? Honestly, I kind of think Seattle got it, and we were just mainly highlighting Mike McDonald. What did he do for Baltimore? He almost took them to the Super Bowl had it not been for
Zay Flowers.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Zay Flowers and all that. But let me say this, Sam Darnold. I
Are you having a hard time hearing them too?
No, I can hear him fine.
Okay.
But yeah, anyways, Sam Darnold. I just think right now Seattle has too much key weapons compared to the Patriots. And yes, we can give our props to the Patriots. I give my props to the Patriots because what did we say this offseason? We had them as our dark horse, did we not? Mm-hmm. And they kind of over exceeded our expectations and went to the Super Bowl. I had them just as a 10-7, wild card team. They top of the division, top of the conference, all the way to the Super Bowl. Look at them now. But let me say this. I just think right now Seattle has the defensive edge and they have the offensive side of edge and they have an offensive brilliant under Mike McDonald. And that's not to take any credit away from Mike Vrabel, because what he's helped Drake May do, that is incredible. But I just basically have Seattle winning it over the Patriots. I think Seattle gets their luck this time. The ball does not get intercepted at the 1-yard line because that is not going to be a dumb decision. By Mike
the ball.
Yes, they will most definitely use running backs. But I am excited for the Super Bowl. Adam, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, awesome. Super excited to be a part of Seahawks going back to the Super Bowl. I thought they would be really good going into the season. Still above my expectations for sure. They go into the Super Bowl as favorites, but definitely cannot underestimate that Patriots offense or defense. I will say quarterbacks under 24 struggle mightily against Mike McDonald defenses. I don't think they've won a single game against Mike McDonald defenses in the playoffs before. So that's an advantage for the Seahawks right there. We do have 2 teams in the top 5 for offense and defense. The Seahawks are the number 1 overall defensive team as far as scoring. And I believe they're 3rd in scoring on offense, whereas the Patriots are, I think they're either way, they're also in the top 5 on both. Forget exactly where the Patriots slide in there though. But I like the Seahawks to continue to win in all 3 phases as they have. Rashid Shaheed in that return game. Honestly, using him a little more in the receiving game wouldn't be bad at all, but it was awesome to see Cooper Kupp blast from the past, also against his former team. So hopefully he can keep that going, just to give Darnold that extra target after JSN, who, of course, JSN's undoubtedly probably going to go off. He needs to for the Seahawks to do well again. We do have Christian Gonzalez to deal with. That's probably a big X factor when he's lining up on JSN, but the great part about JSN is we move him around the formation so often. He's never in the same spot. Even sometimes the throw-off defenses will line him up in the backfield as a running back and then have him just run wide receiver routes, and then it just causes mismatches all over the place. So as long as he can avoid Christian Gonzalez and Carlton Davis, I think he's going to have a good game. Even if he is up against them, I still would put JSN up against anyone and think that he would succeed. And then, like you said, not going to throw the ball on the 1 yard line should that type of scenario play out again. Kenneth Walker, I don't care if it's first, second, third, fourth down, just hand that man the rock and hope he gets in. But yeah, should be a great game. I hope it's not too close because I'm a huge Seahawks fan. But yeah, should be a really good game. I think Vegas has Seahawks favored by like 4.5 points.
Yeah,
Ben?
that's the spread on it. Yeah, I think a lot of people are also forgetting the fact that Sam Darnold is very familiar with Levi Stadium as he was under Coach Kyle Shanahan for at least a year there. So he's familiar with playing in that stadium. He's familiar with playing the Patriots. And, you might argue that, hey, it's a whole different staff. Hey, Sam Darnold has some demons to overcome against the New England Patriots as just a franchise. So, as an avid Jets supporter, everybody will be watching. And then, Adam also mentioned he's also the first USC quarterback to make it to the Super Bowl. So that's super impressive. I think both of these teams stack up decently against each other, but I would agree. I'd give Seattle the edge. I think for me, I think the kind of gut feeling that I have is just because, we're just so used to New England just winning. They have 6 Super Bowls, but they're without Bill Belichick and they're without Tom Brady now. This is Drake May's second year. So I made this comparison just on the Inside the Red Zone show. I mean, basically just imagine a better season that Jaden Daniels had, but imagine if the Commanders made it to the Super Bowl, if they had won one more game. Now, granted, the New England defense is way better than that Commanders team that we saw last year, but this is still Drake May's second year, and he's still young. Darnold has the edge over him in experience, I would say. And, this head coaching matchup is almost, perfect. Mike Vrabel's established a culture in New England. They were 3-13 last year and they flipped it around in 1 year. So going back to my, point of the Patriots fans being fondled their whole lives, but this is going to be a Super Bowl for the ages. It's going to be a good rematch. As far as a complete side, I can't take one, but I just know it's gonna come down to the wire, and I don't know. I feel like I just wouldn't be surprised if New England somehow pulled it off with the very last dark magic that they have. But on paper, I think Seattle should win, and that their team stacks up way better than them. Sam Darnold, just force feeds the ball to JSN like he did last game, like how Adam just mentioned. He's gonna have to have a good game for them to win. So do that and combine that with just feeding the rock to Kenneth Walker every other down that you can. I think it's a recipe for success.
Michael?
Agreed. And Ben, first and foremost, I wouldn't bring that flashback up on, Adam at 1 yard.
I'm saying, I don't know. I'm
Okay.
just so used to the Patriots just coming out on top somehow, some way. That's just what I've been used to my whole life as a, AFC East watcher. So I feel like I'll just never count them out as much as it hurts.
Oh yeah, no, without a doubt, you never want to count the Patriots out. You never want to count Drake May. You never want to count out
because like all Robert Kraft does is just win. I mean,
yeah, and that's just the turning point. Let me say this. Let me say this right quick. The Super Bowl is going to be very competitive, and dudes, I think you know what I'm about to say. Both of these teams have a very standard weakness. Okay, both of these teams. First of all, it's huge that this rematch is happening. Make no mistake. But I think what's going to be the turning point in this Super Bowl, like any other championship, whether it's college, NFL, or high school, whatever, the thing that I've noticed about championship games or conference championship games is that every team has a weakness. But the only way that's going to determine is that which weaknesses on both sides, which team is going to have the most weaknesses, and it's going to affect them from winning this game.
Like which team gets exploited more, I guess you'd say.
Right.
Like, yeah, and that brings back to my coaching point as well. It's a great matchup on both sides.
Yeah, it's a great matchup on both sides. But like I said, that's what this Super Bowl is going to determine the most. Because what a lot of people don't understand is that weaknesses, they do matter. They do matter in championship games because where you're going to know, okay, which team is going to win out. That's like, for example, that's like Indiana and Miami. Miami had a whole lot of weaknesses, and Indiana took advantage of that. And what happened? Indiana ended up winning the college football playoffs. So that's what I'm saying here, that New England and Seattle both have weaknesses. But the only way we're going to know who the Super Bowl champion is going to be is that which team weaknesses are going to affect them more from winning the Super Bowl. But to scratch all that, to get to my point, the Super Bowl feature a highly anticipated rematch between the AFC champion New England Patriots and the NFC champion Seattle Seahawks. The matchup analysts, from what I got from many reporters, is that this game pits two league top defenses and explosive offenses against each other in a rematch of Super Bowl. I can't remember the Super Bowl, but
I believe it was 49. Was it?
Yeah, I think it was 49.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I believe it was 49. The key matchup insight is that, one, for New England, explosive play rate on offense. New England ranks 4th in the NFL, 15.2%, while Seattle ranks 8th in the NFL with 14.4%. Number 2, explosive play rate. Defense in the last 10 weeks. New England's defense allowed just 9.6% of snaps, which is first in the NFL, and Seattle allowed on just 10% of snaps, which is second in the NFL. Now, third thing, quarterback performance, deep passes. Drake May ranks second in deep passes, while Sam Darnold ranks third in deep passes. Last thing, run defense. New England has a terrific run defense. Opponents' success rate is the lowest in the NFL. Seattle, they also have a strong run defense. They're ranked second in the NFL and allow explosive runs. Here are the key storylines, y'all. 1, rematch. I already know about that. I don't even think I need to go further into that. But one thing you don't want to see is that 1-yard line interception. Hopefully that don't happen again. But sorry, Adam. Respect. I said it respectfully.
It's not gonna happen.
Young quarterbacks. Both teams feature young quarterbacks who have accelerated in their team's rebuilds faster than anticipated, with Drake May's Patriots and Sam Darnold's Seattle Seahawks flourishing into MVP candidates. Third thing, defensive battle. Both teams boost top-tier defenses, particularly against explosive plays, suggesting a potential low-scoring affair, which I think this Super Bowl could be low-scoring, y'all. The Patriots defense dominate in the AFC Championship game, while the Seattle Seahawks defense is focused on stopping the run, forcing passing situations. Special teams impact. Both teams feature elite return specialists in the Patriots, Marcus Jones, and the Seattle Seahawks, my guy, Speed Kills, Rashid Shaheed, making game-breaking special team plays possible. Halftime show, I don't really think I need to go into that, but I guess I can throw this out there. The halftime show will be highlighted by Puerto Rican superstar Bad Bunny. The national anthem will be performed by Charlie Puth.
Don't forget Green Day, too.
Yeah, this game will be aired on NBC and can be streamed on Peacock and NFL Plus. For the second time, I'm not going to go into the positives and the negatives, so I'm just going to give y'all the positives for both teams. New England ranks number 1 in the NFL, allowing explosive plays, and also has allowed just 23 combined points in 3 playoff games. That's defense-wise. Offense, quarterback Drake May is a top deep passer and elite scrambler with 141 rushing yards in the playoffs in general. Special teams, like I said, just said that not too long ago, features a game-breaking returner, Marcus Jones, and clutch performers like field goal blocker Leonard Taylor III. Now, Seattle, as far as their positive negatives, Seattle defense ranks number 1 in the NFL in overall run defense efficiency and is exceptional at stopping explosive runs. Offense, Sam Darnold is having a career year, and the offense has scoring threats in all 3 phases. Last thing, special teams. Like I just said before, elite returner Rashid Shaheed is a threat to score on any touch. So my thing with this is that if Rashid Shaheed gets hot, if Sam Darnold gets hot, and New England doesn't pressure him, and not too many sacks get involved, and it won't kill the momentum. I think Seattle will have a chance to win this game. But the only way Seattle will have a chance to win this game is that they keep doing what they're doing, running the ball, passing the ball well. And then not only that, Rashid Shaheed does what he does in the special teams. And I feel like if those three things can happen, then I think this game would belong to Seattle. I just, as far as New England goes, yeah, they got Drake May and all this and that, and Stephon Diggs, but I just honestly feel that Seattle has just more of that talented fire on both sides of the ball, and I just honestly think that Sam Darnold and that offense, and then on the other side you got the defense and the secondary, which I think is top tier. Adam, I know you can agree with me on that. I just think Seattle has the advantage in this Super Bowl, but like I said, every team has a weakness, so we'll see in the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter which weakness is going to affect the team the most.
Deuce, you're muted.
My fault. The one thing I do want to talk about now that we are talking about the Super Bowl, we do got Sam Darnold there, but we've been talking about this so long that Allen has not gotten to the Super Bowl, and he's had so many chances to. And now the question that's going to start to be raised is, if Sam Darnold does win the Super Bowl, is Allen elite? Do y'all still consider Allen elite or just a top QB in the league? And Adam, I'm gonna start this with you.
Yeah, I'll tackle that. I got one more point about the Seahawks and the Patriots Super Bowl, but yeah, I'll tackle the Allen first. Yeah, for me, undoubtedly, Josh Allen's still elite. It's more of a tip of the cap and more of a boon for Sam Darnold than it's really like a knock on Josh Allen, in my opinion. I mean, like, no matter how you break it down, he's still a top 3 quarterback. I couldn't really even name more than one quarterback, maybe not even one, that's better than him. You could say Matthew Stafford this season, but I mean, he's up there in age. If I was to start a franchise right now, I'd probably still start it with Josh Allen. Maybe one of the young guys like Drake May or Jaden Daniels, just because of the age factor. But to me, Josh Allen's still elite. I'm not going to let one game with many turnovers spoil it for him, because I mean, we've seen how players have bounced back from that. I mean, even Sam Darnold's perfect example. Had a terrible game in the playoffs last year. He's back with a different team as well, and now he's going to the Super Bowl. So I will say, I know we're going to save coaches until next time, but I think just promoting Joe Brady, who's been with Josh Allen since the beginning. He was I think the quarterback's coach or the passing game coordinator before he became offensive coordinator, but he's been with Josh Allen the whole time. So I think that's going to just really solidify the ship, just not rock the boat whatsoever. And he's young. I think he's a guy that the Bills will still be consistent, but now you'll have that new voice, which is often sometimes really important. I know how many Bills fans were trying to pull for get Sean McDermott back, but I mean, it could be a Pete Carroll type of scenario like it was with the Seahawks, where he was so good for so many years, obviously led us to the Super Bowl, but you get McDonald in there, and then within 2 years you're in the Super Bowl. So could be a similar type of thing with Joe Brady and the Bills, but we'll see.
Ben?
I feel like it's kind of impossible to say he's not elite. I mean, we saw the game he had against Jacksonville where he, I believe, had all the rushing touch, or I don't know, I'm not sure if James Cook scored, but he had, pretty much all the team's touchdowns with a total of 3 of them. So that dual threat that he always has of just running the ball, and obviously, his cannon of an arm. I mean, I don't think anybody would have, guessed that Josh Allen would turn into the quarterback he is today, coming out of Wyoming, I believe. So huge props to him over his career. But I mean, maybe the Bills are just still cursed. Maybe they just never make it back to the big game. I know Deuce's Cowboys kind of, finished them off back in the 90s, and they just haven't been back since. So it's going to be hard to, always get back to the AFC Championship over and over again. And the Patriots are obviously not going anywhere. So it's just going to be tough. And it was just, it was easy to see why it was so hard for him, I guess, to take all of that in after the Broncos game that they had last week. But as far as the city of Buffalo and their fans go, I mean, they still showed support for their squad. I saw that a lot of fans were waiting for them right back at the airport when they came back. So, that was good to see. But yeah, I still think Lamar should have won that MVP over him probably. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like Josh Allen gets a little bit too much hate, and I know it's kind of crazy coming from me. And yeah, he's still 2-2 against Zach Wilson.
Every time.
Look, me personally, I'm just gonna say this. I still do think Josh Allen is a elite quarterback, but you got to give it at least like 1 or 2 more years of him not making the Super Bowl, or at least not making it far. There's been a lot of great quarterbacks and very elite quarterbacks in the past that have just not won a ring. There's been a lot of elite players in the past that have not won a ring. So my thing is, why do we hold it to Josh Allen just because Patrick Mahomes has rings? I feel like nowadays we see Patrick Mahomes and we just use that as a pedigree of this is what elite is. But yes, people, you do have a case. Josh Allen hasn't made the postseason. And yes, you're not wrong to have your opinion about that, but to say that he's just an average, mediocre QB, I think that's just far fetched. I still consider him a top 3 QB in the AFC anyway. So, and that's elite in my book. You're top 3, top 4 QB. Look, people have been calling Lamar elite all these years, and he hasn't made a ring. And yeah, you can say he has his postseason inconsistencies, but elite players win MVPs, and both of them have an MVP. So I don't see why you take that away from him. But like I said, you give it like 2 or 3 more years, and if he continues to not make the postseason as he continues to get older, then you can start to have that talk. But right now, I think if he continues to keep performing how he is, and hypothetically, if he just even makes a conference championship and he continues to perform, put up numbers like this, MVP numbers every year, then I don't see why we just can't consider him elite. But Mike, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think Josh Allen is widely considered an elite NFL quarterback, consistently ranked among the top players in the league by experts, coaches, and scouts. Experts have been saying, and I wrote this down, one, he's a top tier in ranking. Many place Allen in a small top tier of NFL quarterbacks alongside players like Mahomes, Joe Burrow, and Lamar. In fact, some sources rank him as the number 1 or number 2 quarterback in the entire league. Second thing, his dual threat ability. Allen is regarded as one of the greatest dual threat quarterbacks of all time, with a rare combination of elite arm strength, size, and exceptional. He's the only player in the NFL history to total over 40 touchdowns in 4 consecutive seasons. Third thing, consistent production. Y'all, he has been the most consistent quarterback in fantasy football over the last 6 seasons, ranking at or near the top in points per game due to his high production in both passing and rushing. Here's another thing. The PFF grades, Pro Football Focus. I got resources. According to Pro Football Focus, they have given him the most elite grade since the start of 2020 season, and his overall PFF grade over the past 3 seasons ranks first among all quarterbacks. Now, here's the thing, and we, like Deuce just said, we talked about this just now, the Super Bowl debate. The main point of this contention regarding Allen's elite status is his lack of a Super Bowl win or appearance. Despite of his individual brilliance, he has an 0-4 record against the Chiefs in the playoffs and has not yet reached the Super Bowl. Many analysts state that he needs to win the big one to solidify his place in all-time great conversation. Let me pause right there. First of all, you don't need to win the big one to be considered an all-time great. There have been many players in NFL history who hadn't even made it to the big top and is still considered elite players. They still considered elite Hall of Famers. You don't have to win a ring. You don't have to be the most flashiest guy in the world. You don't have to be Superman. You don't have to be Fantastic Four. You don't have to be all this and that. You don't even have to be a Marvel character to be considered an elite player. Josh Allen is still, in my opinion, an elite player. Despite of what's going on in Buffalo, it's not the end for Buffalo. It's not the end for Josh Allen. What needs to happen is that Buffalo needs to just find that right way of winning games. That's just what it is. It's not Josh Allen. It's just you have to find ways to win the right way and turn over the ball, going and not getting anywhere on any drives. It's not going to help you with that. I honestly still believe that Josh Allen is still considered an elite player. Now I could go down the list because I got more I can deal with this, but for the sake of time, I'm gonna spare that. But I still believe that Josh Allen is considered an elite quarterback, despite of despite of playoff difficulties, despite of not being able to make it to the Super Bowl. I still think he's elite because there have been a lot of players who haven't even made the Super Bowl, and it's still elite to this day. To this day. So I don't really want to hear that. Oh, he's over for the playoffs, man. How many players have a bad record in the playoffs, y'all? I'll wait.
His overtime record is a little crazy too, though. I don't think he's ever won an overtime game. But I mean, yeah, like I said, I agree with you, Michael. I feel like Josh Allen gets a little bit too much hate, and I feel like in this draft coming up, which we'll get to in a little bit in a second, I'd be shocked if they didn't take a receiver in round one because they had a bell cow back in James Cook, arguably the top running back in the whole NFL this year. But it just hasn't been working with Keon Coleman. The rest of their wide receiver core. Nobody's taken that really step up to be that true number one receiver for Josh Allen. And I think that's what most of their failure has come from and why Josh Allen has to, kind of take control of, certain games and kind of win it for them. And I know he can definitely do that. And I'm sure he has no problem with it, but it could cost you games at some point.
It could. And the thing with Coleman is that, he just needs to be a little bit more disciplined in his mindset because the Bills have had issues with him as far as, him being disciplined, actually participating in team situations. Now, like I said, regardless of what people think, we believe that Josh Allen is still that guy. He's still that dude. He's still that quarterback. He's still the quarterback of the franchise for the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills in general just have to find the right keys and the right way. And that's just where it's at. I don't care about his record. Y'all can look at the record all you want. I'm looking at his physicality, and his physicality has proved that he is that guy. He is still Allen. Do you know how many guys have not been able to make the Super Bowl and still elite? This is not the end of Josh Allen. Josh Allen will make the Super Bowl at some point. Like you said, it could be 5 years from now. I think it could be 2 years from now. You never know. It's just a matter of what will the Bills do to benefit around Josh Allen to make sure that what happened doesn't happen again. That's just the bottom line. I don't care about his record. I can care less what his record is. Yes, he's 0-4, but what's the point? What's your point? It's still Josh Allen still has a. He's not. He still has a lot left in him to make a Super Bowl. It's not the end for Josh Allen. He is still elite to me.
What I want to basically I basically just said what I had to say about Josh Allen. In my books, he's still elite unless he continues to put up bad numbers as the seasons go on. Then you can start to take away from what he's done. But I mean, I think he has a good track record so far, and I believe he's going to win another. He's going to win at least another MVP before his season ends. And like Adam said before on one of the earlier podcasts, a large part in due to it, and a lot of people say it's excuse, but look at who he has surrounded by him. We talked about the issues with Keon Coleman, Shakir, James Cook, but I think I'm not saying James Cook has an issue, but James Cook was really in my, his true best weapon. Like we saw for all these young QBs, build around him. Allen, even though he's older, you still need to have weapons around Allen so he can, he can produce, but he's still doing well. Look what he's doing without the, weapons that,
Exactly.
like Lamar has, the weapons that Dak has, the weapons that Joe Burrow has. I can go on and on. But what I do want to talk about now next is the our postseason and off season really. And Ben, I know that you're the one really you're the one that started off this mock draft last year and you got it kicked off this year. So I'm gonna hand the keys off to you.
Yeah, so this year's draft is gonna be, the real meat and potatoes of it. It's gonna be the tackles, the offensive linemen, and the defensive linemen. But it's also a really good wide receiver class. So we can see a lot of receivers go in the first round. There's a lot of wide receiver needy teams, but I want to take a look. This is a second mock draft that I made today, and honestly, I like it a little bit more than the first one that I made. But I think kind of a point that not a lot of people are kind of talking about is I believe the draft kind of starts basically the dominoes start to fall based on where Jeremiah Love gets drafted. Now he could go anywhere from 2 to the Jets to 3. I mean, think about it like this. What's going to happen to Brees Hall next season? They're not going to keep him on this team, I would believe. So are they going to trade him to the Cardinals? I mean, James Conner is on his second year contract. He's been injured a lot. I mean, James Conner is an interesting scenario for the Arizona Cardinals and their running back room in general because, I mean, he's almost hit 1,000 yards pretty much every time. But, I mean, in the last year of his contract, are you going to keep rolling with James Conner or could you select the running back right there, number 3? It would be the highest, running back selected since Saquon Barkley, but people are calling Jeremiah Love a top 2, top 3 player in this whole entire draft. So it would certainly be worth the pick there. I feel like these picks from 1 to 16, I'm kind of more comfortable on. And then anything after that is kind of, a little bit up in the air as far as like, specific players. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting class this year, especially compared to last year's. I feel like there's going to be a lot more question marks on where certain teams kind of go. Yeah, so I think another player that's going to be a huge domino also to fall, and we were talking about this a little bit before the show too, is where Caleb Downs ends up. I don't see him going past pick number 7 because there are just a lot of teams that could use this huge secondary, generational player. So yeah, like for example, I have him going number 7 to the Washington Commanders, and I think that's the latest he could possibly go. I had him going around the 7 or 6th pick, because that is also the last highest or lowest rather safety taken in the draft was previously the New York Jets, I believe, when they selected Jamal Adams. So Caleb Downs could end up a Jet. Caleb Downs could end up a Giant. Any team would love to have Caleb Downs on their team, I would believe. So we're going to see a lot of tackles going on in the first round too. There's a lot of talk of Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. People exclusively Daniel Jeremiah is saying that he's going to have a huge leap in his draft stock because, I mean, a lot of teams here are going to be needing offensive linemen. The Titans could go O-line for Cam Ward. I mean, Arizona could definitely use a tackle, have them taking Spencer Fano. And then the Giants certainly as well with Francis Manoa. I mean, this, like I said, is going to be the offensive lineman draft and the defensive lineman draft. Not really so much on quarterbacks. I have the Rams taking Ty Simpson, sniping him at 29 for him to sit a year behind Stafford. But these quarterback needy teams, it's going to be interesting what they do as well because the free agency class is not very strong this year at all for a quarterback if you're trying to build off of that. So I think we could see a huge trade between the Jets and the Cardinals. I'm not sure if the Jets trade down from 16 or what they do from there, but yeah, those are, I guess, the main interesting points from this version of my mock. And then for Dallas, I have them double dipping in defense as well. Because, add to that defensive line that hurt you so much last year. Sonny Styles would be a home run pick, in my opinion. And I think Jerry Jones would like that as well. And I guess kind of the last thing I'll sort of talk about here in this mock draft is Kenyon Sadiq going number 15 to the Bucks. I feel like he could go a little bit earlier than that, possibly a little later. We'll see, but I really like Kenyon Sadiq going to the Bucks, giving Baker a tight end weapon for him. Adam, any early thoughts as these 2027 draft class?
Yeah, I'll get into mine in just a second, but I keep forgetting to say it, so I'm just gonna throw this in here real quick. One final thought on that Seahawks-Patriots Super Bowl matchup. I think defensively for the Seahawks, they really need to hone in on Kayshon Boutte, the Patriots' best downfield target. So if they're able to lock him down, I mean, you saw them win the game over the Texans, even against Derek Stingley Jr. Boutte caught that beautiful one-handed catch. So the Seahawks are really gonna have to hone in on him, not let him get any explosive plays downfield. And then you got to watch out for Hunter Henry and Stephon Diggs in the middle. But I think the Seahawks formation, they're employing a lot of dime, getting five DBs on the field at the same time, six even sometimes. So I think they'll match up really well against that. But it's just a matter of just getting the completions are going to happen. You just got to keep it down at like the 5-yard gains, just no chunk gains, and that's what the Seahawks are the best at. They fly to the football. A lot of really athletic guys, a lot of heavy hitters as well. So as long as they're able to do that, I think it's going to be a great matchup, and I think they'll come out on top. But I really got to watch out for Boutte, Hunter Henry, and Diggs, and then keeping Ramondre Stevenson under wraps. But I think the Seahawks will do that for sure, no problem. But getting into my mock, there's going to be a lot of changing, a lot of moving parts going forward. But let's see. We all have Mendoza going first overall. That is where it gets a little bit more interesting. I do think the Jets could be in a position to move back, but we'll see as the process develops. But right now, I've got them taking the best defensive player on the board for me. That's Arvell Reese. The Jets need a lot of help in a lot of places, but no better way or no. It's a good spot to start. Just solidifying the center of your defense, getting a really good linebacker who can also rush the passer pretty well. Need to do a lot more research on him, but I like that pick at 2. I'm just going to kind of jump around with some of the ones that stand out. I got Cardinals and Titans both taking the top 2 tackles on the board. Fano, and then going to figure out how to pronounce his name. What is
Maui Noah.
Maui Noah. Okay, if there's an N in there, that just okay. I believe you, but not how I would pronounce it. But Francis Maui Noah out of Miami. I got the Titans solidifying their offensive line for Cam Ward in the future, taking him 4th. That's where it gets really interesting with the Giants. Right now, I have them taking, in my opinion, the best cornerback on the board, Mansour Delaney out of LSU. They could go wide receiver here. I know a lot of Giants fans that want them to take Carnell Tate.
Yeah, I think they keep Wandale on that squad. I feel like he proved enough to stick on this Giants squad. I mean, I believe he was top 10 in the whole NFL with receiving yards. So, and nobody had that going into the season. So,
no, for sure. Yeah, he helped me a lot in a few fantasy championships, and I mean, for how small he is too, he's just a yards after catch magnet. At 6, I got them taking David Bailey. You could go Reuben Bain Jr. Gonna have to see how the edges end up falling into place. But right now, I got them taking David Bailey Jr., a really talented pass rusher that'll be a force opposite of Myles Garrett. They already got Mason Graham last year.
Pairing.
Yeah, then you got Mason Graham in the middle, so then you have 3 forces on the defensive line, and then that's when it usually gets really dicey for opposing offenses. The spicy pick is going to be the Chiefs at 9. Jeremiah Love sitting there at number 9, and they get him the most talented running back in the class. He can do a little bit of everything. He can catch the ball as well. Just a really dynamic player. I think pairing him with Patrick Mahomes and fixing the Chiefs' probably number 1 problem is consistent running ability. They've got Kareem Hunt, who he's good close to the goal line, but he does not have much juice left in the tank. So if you could actually have like a real primary back for the Chiefs, I think that could signal a big bounce back campaign potentially. I got Bengals going Jermod McCoy, cornerback. And then that's when I have Downs going off the board to the Dolphins at 11. But I do agree with you. I could see him going sooner. It's going to be a lot to take in as the process plays out. But then at 16, my next kind of spicy pick is Carnell Tate. That's when I have the first wide receiver going off the board. So it's going to be, I think the thing that'll be determine where people fall into place is when the first wide receiver comes off the board and who takes them. And then maybe there becomes a little mini run. But because I could see 2 or 3 coming off the board by now. But there's a lot of teams, a lot of other needs, and not necessarily going wide receiver this early is probably a smarter move. But Carnell Tate to the Jets. Whoever is going to be playing quarterback, that'll give him a dynamic playmaker.
Man.
You'll get 2 Ohio State receivers with Garrett Wilson returning from injury, and then Carnell Tate to pair up. So that'd be a really, really nice set of pass catchers to build upon. And then Jordan Tyson's my second wide receiver I have going off the board at 19. Yeah, he is an absolute beast. His brother is actually tearing up the NBA right now. Rookie for the Cleveland Cavaliers, just started going off in the last couple weeks. So shout out to him. But Jordan Tyson at 19, that'd be a dream scenario for the Panthers. Their defense really surprised people. It was a lot better than people thought. So they could go defense, keep building on that. But to get Jordan Tyson, another big guy to go with Tetero McMillan and Jalen Coker, you just have 3 enormous guys that you could put all over the formation and then just keep building with Bryce Young. So I really like that pick there if he is available. Again, could see him going a lot earlier. Another guy that could go earlier, I've seen some people have the Rams taking him at 13 because the Rams like to take spicy wide receivers. But Mekhi Lemon is probably the best slot receiver in the draft out of USC. I got the Pittsburgh Steelers taking him at 21st overall. So he would be a perfect guy to catch passes in the middle of the field underneath to pair with DK Metcalf and then whoever's throwing the ball for them. So there's a lot of QB questions with a lot of these teams, as you can see. But after that, Kenyon Sadiq, I had him going 27 to the 49ers to replace Kittle long term, but that's another guy that I could see going a lot earlier. I know Ben had him at 15 going to the Bucks. And then I got the Texans will get Monroe Freeling on this mock, who's going to be a rising asset, I think, more and more. I also was reading up on him from Daniel Jeremiah, but Force out of Georgia, they were able to get Ariante Ursary last year in the draft. Which he was a great pick, started to build the foundation for CJ Stroud and the Texans, but they need a lot more help. So get another big guy in Monroe Freeling. And then assuming the Seahawks do win it, it'd be Seahawks picking at 32. And there's a lot of options. Could take Denzel Boston out of UW and keep him at home. That. But in this first one, I had Brandon Cisse, if I'm saying that right, cornerback out of South Carolina. Not that the Seahawks necessarily need them, but they do have a bunch of DBs coming up on contract years next year and the following year. So to just keep building to the future and just keep solidifying those ranks, why not take another DB? We're great at developing them. Mike McDonald's, even if you develop them to trade them or trade one of the older assets and then not have to re-sign them, always a recipe for success. But yeah, that's what I got going on in round 1 so far.
Yeah, I guess kind of another thing people could look out for is, you mentioned David Bailey possibly going to the Browns. That would be some kind of crazy combination, especially with Mason Graham alongside Myles Garrett. But I've also seen people talk very highly about David Bailey, calling him the very, very true pass rusher in this draft class, at least in the first round, because you have sorry,
Bane.
1 second. You have Arvil Reese, who's technically, kind of a linebacker. Is he technically an edge or is he a linebacker? With Ruben Bain, are people going to be looking at his, measurements at the combine? His disruptive, nature is not a question, but would that be too much of a concern for them at 2? It didn't matter for the Patriots, I guess, last year when they selected Will Campbell, but I guess those are 2 different sides of the ball. But then, David Bailey could very much go at number 2, in my opinion. That could be a real possibility. So I guess the Jets will kind of just, pick and choose between their defensive, woes there. But yeah, I just think another thing to look out for is to see where AJ Brown goes this offseason. It's going to be, interesting to see what he does. I think he could end up a Patriot. And yeah, I think that sort of wraps it up for the thoughts that I have now. Another thing too is obviously, like I mentioned before, the free agent quarterbacks this year are not strong at all. So, does Arizona keep Kyler Murray? Do they trade him? Do they give him one more shot? It's going to be, really, really interesting to see what Arizona does. And of course, the New York Jets. Those are going to be 2 very, very important teams after the Raiders, of course. And then Tennessee have to just keep giving Cam Ward help. I really like their hirings of Robert Saleh and Brian Dable. You kind of have a defensive-minded head coach there, and then you have a kind of offensive quarterback whisperer for your second-year quarterback in Cam Ward. So maybe they go receiver, give him a true number one, but I just think number 3 would be a little bit too early. So
I agree.
All right, what are y'all's thoughts on Malik Willis this offseason? Because how he's performed
Another
with
good
the Packers.
player.
He's going to get. And you look, y'all mentioned a weak quarterback class, but a quarterback like him is going to get signed to start anywhere. And look, you never know. What if he has that
Mac
same
Jones
success
maybe
story
even.
like Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield had? We saw what he did in that Packers offense, but I mean, where do y'all think he lands? Because I mean, you never know. Maybe up somewhere like Indianapolis. You just
Mhm.
you don't know, because there's a lot of teams out there that need a quarterback.
Indy would be a good spot for Malik Willis. I mean, obviously, they still have Anthony Richardson on the bench. Sadly, he still
And they're
hasn't really
gonna
worked out for
3-sign
them.
Daniel Jones too, I think.
Yeah, I
Oh,
would
yeah.
imagine that as well. I mean, I feel like the really, really, really quarterback needy teams are the Arizona Cardinals and the New York Jets. And obviously, with the Cardinals, it just all depends on whether they want to move on for Kyler Murray or not. But it seems like from what we've been hearing all season that that's going to be the case, that they're going to be moving on from Kyler Murray. So, I had the earliest quarterback going I believe 29 to the not 29. Sorry about that. I had the first quarterback going pretty late, second quarterback, sorry, and Ty
Yeah, Ty
Simpson
Simpson.
after Fernando Mendoza, of course. But I don't know. I don't know if teams would be willing to trade up for Ty Simpson. I believe that Ty Simpson has not had as much as, um, experience a lot compared to, other rookie quarterbacks. But we've seen a lot of crazy stuff before in the NFL draft as far as, maybe reaching for players or trading back, trading in. There's definitely going to be, I feel like, a lot of trades in this year's draft. And
Mhm.
we might see, a team try to move up. I mean, like I said, I think like a Dallas could be a team that would maybe want to move up, depending if they're maybe afraid of losing maybe the selection of Sony Styles. I feel like that's just the number one player on their board right now in their office. I guarantee you it says Sony Styles at the top. So I feel like Jerry Jones would do anything in his power to try to get the player that he wants and he needs. So yeah.
Michael, you got any thoughts on this offseason? Any draft thoughts? Any free agency thoughts?
Yeah, off season, it's currently in a full swing of featuring major coaching changes, significant free agent signings, and the determination of the draft order, all leaping up into the 2026 NFL draft. As far as the draft goes, the draft order, non-playoff teams is basically already said, with the Las Vegas Raiders holding the number one overall pick, which 9-19 is going to be Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner who led his team to the national championship. But then you also got to think about the top prospects draft. The top prospects like I just said, Mendoza, then Notre Dame running back, who a lot of people are saying, the Saints should try to pick up. I highly doubt that we'll even do that, or highly doubt that he'll probably be gone before we even get to that. And then, Ohio State's linebacker, Arvell Reese, the edge rusher and wide receiver classes are also considered a deep with talent. Now, as far as offseason moves, this offseason has been sustainable movement on both coaching staffs and player rosters. Head coaching changes. 10 teams will have, new head coaches in for the 2026 season. New hires, notable hires like Mark McCarthy, the Steelers, John Harbaugh, the Giants, Robert Saleh, the Titans, and Kevin Stefanski, Falcons, and then Jeff Hafley with the Dolphins. Current openings, the Arizona Cardinals and Raiders are still searching for their head.
Yeah, there are only 2 left so far. Every
Yeah.
other head coaching position has been filled.
Yes. Here's another thing: notable player transactions. While the official free agency signing period hasn't fully begun, it starts in March. Several key players were involved in significant trades and distinctions around the end of the season, Extinctions like quarterbacks Josh Allen, Bills, Garrett Wilson, the Jets, and defensive end Myles Garrett, the Browns signed massive contract extensions. Trades. Major trades around the deadline include Steelers acquiring receiver DK Metcalf from Seattle and the Commanders trading for versatile playmaker in Deebo Samuel. Then you got top free agent targets, players like edge rusher Trey Hendrickson and Jalen Phillips, wide receiver George Pickens, and running back Bryce Hall are among the top free agents available. So, this off season it's a flip flop situation. No, I take that back. It's a thinking situation because there are a lot of questionable movements here. What team needs who. There are a lot of players in free agency now. As far as if you were to ask me, what were the same all season plans? It's just to build around Tyler Shaw, build up that receiver room, probably touch up a little bit on the offensive line, and then take care of the defensive line, and then probably we signed Julian Blackman to a 1-year deal, which I think is a huge thing. Despite of the injury that happened to him, I think he still has a chance. I actually, take praise in Mickey Loomis on giving, Julian Blackman another chance, despite of his injury, because he's still a talented safety, in my opinion. But I think, as far as, Saints wise, I think, those are just the positions that I think would be the key things to build up on as far as building around Tyler Shaw. Because 9 out of 10, I believe Tyler Shaw is our quarterback for the franchise, but I cannot just decide that on one season. I hate to be the realist, Saints fan here, but I got to be honest. Tyler Shaw, even though he had, the ending of a good year, next year, you kind of have to just be like, okay, how would next year go? So that's just where it's at. Now, as far as the draft wise, I'm gonna run through this quickly here.
I see a lot of people mocking a receiver to you guys, but I honestly don't think that's. I mean, it's certainly on the table to give help to Chris Olave, but I feel like Chris Olave has emerged as the true number one on the Saints' offensive wall as far as like a wide receiver goes. I mean, do you see the Saints drafting defense, even though their defense was I guess the main positive for them last year? I mean, why not just stack up more on the, better side of the ball that you guys have and also get a replacement for Cameron Jordan? I mean, if he plays next year, that'll be amazing, but you're going to have to replace him at some point in time. And that's big shoes to fill, but this is a great, defensive lineman class, like I just said.
Yeah, there are a lot of veterans, in the Saints locker room that are up to question because Demario Davis, he basically gave out a hint that, he's coming back to the NFL, but he did not say officially if he'll be coming back to the Saints. And if not, that's going to be a blow. But then again, I understand. But if I'm Mickey Loomis, I would sign Demario Davis. I would sign, Cam Jordan because those guys, they still have a lot in them despite of their age. They still have the physicality. Now, Ben, to answer your question, do I see the Saints building around the receiver room? I honestly feel like it's possible. I feel like they would, and they 9 out of 10 they might not. And from what I've known from Mickey Loomis in the past, when it comes down to drafts, he could possibly go defense first. And that's just the bottom line here. But I think a lot of Saints fans want a receiver to build around. But then you got to think about, guys like Belly and then I think Fuller. There are some guys that got hurt that did not really get a chance to play fully. But I think, guys like, Belly, who we got in a trade, I think he has shown capabilities of being a physical wide receiver too. But as far as that goes, I just honestly feel, I'm looking at my mock draft here, and I got us going with Cornell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State. The only reason why I said it is because, the first receiver I got taken off the board is Jordan Tyson, who could possibly end up going to the Cleveland Browns. But like I said, I could be wrong here.
I got Browns taking a receiver too.
Yeah, and then I got Arizona taking Mr. Love out of Notre Dame, but at the same time they could possibly end up going with a quarterback. Yeah, it's 50-50. But then I got the Jets taking the safety Caleb Downs from out of Ohio State. Yeah, I say that's 50-50. Ben, I know you probably might not be like, I don't know, we might need a safety, more like might need a quarterback. That's fair. But there are many things, and I'm gonna continue doing this my stuff as I go along. So this isn't just my one official one. There are gonna be many of these, and I'm gonna be posting this during the week. So I'm just letting y'all know that now. But going down the list, and then Adam for Seattle, I got Seattle taking Colton Hood out cornerback out of Tennessee. There's nothing wrong with building around that cornerback room because your DB room is very versatile. It's very athletic. But there's nothing wrong with building upon that. But y'all probably could not end up going with Colton Hood out of Tennessee. Y'all end up probably going with Mason Dillon out of LSU. He's showing capabilities. It's 50-50 with this draft. And, honestly, I'm just like, you just kind of just have to sit at the edge of your seat like, like, okay. I got the our linebacker out of Ohio State for the 5th pick. I got Tennessee taking David Bailey, edge rusher out of Texas Tech in the 4th pick. That's basically my top 10. I got the Chiefs taking Peter Woods, inside DN from Clemson, and then Bengals, I got taking Jermon McCoy, cornerback out of Tennessee. That's basically my top 10. Now for Dallas Deuce, I got them taking I think Makai Lemon out of UFC. Because 9 out of 10, depending on what I can't, Lord, his name was in my head. It told us in my mind, but whatever.
George Pickens.
No, the CEO, general manager.
Jones.
Jerry Jones.
Jerry Jones he's the man of it all.
Yes, thank you. I don't know. I had his name in my head and it slipped my mind just like that. But I think, as far as George Pickens goes, I don't think, either they let him go or they keep him. But if they keep him, then y'all still building, you're still rebuilding that receiver room. I don't know much about Dallas receiver room, but it wouldn't be a bad idea, to stock up on another wide receiver. There's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. So as far as that goes, I would go down the list here as far as on who is getting who, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to do Seattle, Jets, Cowboys, and then Saints. And there are some other teams that I listed, but like I said, for the sake of time, I don't want to take too long on this. But I honestly think that those things could possibly end up happening, but it's the draft, so you never really know. And as far as the Saints front office, I can't justify what's going to happen. Y'all saw me win with Shador last year. They ended up going with Tyler Shaw. They ended up going with a tackle first, which Kevin Banks is killing, by the way. I honestly just cannot. I wouldn't be surprised if we go defense first, then receiver.
Yeah, that's. Go ahead, Deuce.
No, you can say your point real quick, Adam.
Okay, yeah, I was just gonna say, that's what I have the Saints doing, is taking Reuben Bain Jr. But going back to Malik Willis really fast, I think a really good landing spot for him would be the Steelers, assuming Aaron Rodgers retires, because you still only have Will Howard there and probably won't be ready yet. So Malik Willis, you plug him in with a pretty good defense, nice supporting pieces around there, especially if they did go and get a guy like Makai Lemon in that first round, like I had in the mock. There's also the Dolphins. The Dolphins are likely to just eat a bunch of dead cap weight and get rid of Tua. Then they got Quinn Ewers. Maybe he's ready to become the starting quarterback, but just bring in Malik Willis, have another guy compete with Quinn Ewers could be a recipe for success. But it's going to be interesting because Mac Jones is another guy that could be on the board for teams to try to sign as a starter. But from what I've heard from the 49ers, they're definitely going to try and lock him down because you already saw firsthand how important he was when Brock Purdy went down with injury, kept their season together. So yeah, there's not many quarterbacks to go around.
Yeah, but basically for me and to the ones watching this, I'm sorry I have not been as tuned in into the NFL draft as I should have been, but I am. because Ben did catch me off guard with the mock draft. So it did wake me up. So I need to start paying attention. But I'm just gonna give y'all some of the picks that I think these things make. Honestly, I really don't see Caleb Downs falling. Like y'all said before, no later than 7. But at the same time, I don't know. I just feel like the Jets would just be the team to make some splash pick, or they either go for a tackle to improve the O line. Um, for some reason, like I just said, either a tackle or a splash pick. But I was telling Ben this the other day. The Jets are just in a weird place right now because they're not in win now mode, but I don't think they're in
Very
fully
far
rebuild.
from it.
I don't think they're fully in rebuild like mode. I just think they're like a couple pieces and a couple front office of pieces away from like being, I'm not saying contending for a Super Bowl, but at least contending for a 7th seed. I feel like the
New
Jets kind of
QB.
Yeah.
wasted. Yeah, they
In
wasted
a
it.
perfect world, I mean,
I think
Diana
y'all went
Russell was
wrong.
saying that the Jets had a plan, but I
Nah,
mean, it just doesn't show it. In a
I think y'all
perfect
went wrong
world,
going all in on Rodgers. I think that's where y'all went wrong. Went all in on
yeah,
Rodgers. Y'all signed people that Rodgers wanted. It didn't pan out. Y'all are having to eat it up with the cap. Y'all are having to just to deal with the repercussions of the post
and
Rodgers era.
Devontae
But
Adams and Nathaniel Hackett and all other Rodgers buddies that he brought. But
Rod,
yeah, I just want to say real last quickly about the Jets. I mean, obviously, like we said, they're very, very far from contention. In a perfect world, in a perfect scenario, I would give everything to the Raiders to bring Fernando Mendoza to New York, but that's most likely not happening. So where do you go from there? You go from number 2 and then 16. I mean, me and MJ were kind of speculating on his show earlier that what if the Jets trade up from 16 and make 2 top 10 selections? That'd be
we
kind
could
of
see.
insane.
We
I mean,
could
at
see
that
that.
point, you would take the number 1 player on your board on defense and the number 1 player on your board on offense. And honestly, if the Jets want to have an A+ draft, or if Darren Muji wants to do like some really high Q, play here, I would try to, trade Brees Hall for some sort of package, maybe to the Arizona Cardinals, maybe use your second round picks as well. I mean, get Jeremiah Love in here, make him the running back 1. I still think Braylon Allen is obviously a really good running back for us, and he's also very young still, but I'm not sure if he's ready to become that running back 1. Just I feel like he's perfect for that third down scenario when you just need that couple extra yardage. But yeah, I mean, if I was the Jets GM, if I was Darren Muji, I would do anything in my power to get 2 top 10 picks, possibly top 7 picks, and try to get, your top edge rusher and pair him with, arguably the biggest playmaker in this year's draft. That would be insane. But it's the New York Jets, so they're going to disappoint again, and they're not going to have anything to look forward to in the year 2026. So, you know,
The draft is
the
gonna be tricky.
2027 draft also supposed to be set to be a way better quarterback class than this year's. But even then, what if Arch Manning doesn't come out again next year?
Right.
Dante Moore is still not going to want to be a Jet. And then the list just goes on and on and on. The no coach wants to take any job for this franchise. It's just beginning to just become more dysfunctional and dysfunctional. So I guess that's my daily Jets rant of the day. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for tuning in on this episode. And Deuce, if y'all want to take us home with anything we have planned for the future, the near future, let the fans know what we got going on.
So for starters, me and Michael, we noted it last night on our podcast with our 2 guests. We do have special spotlight series kind of where me, Michael, and Mark will be going. He's a journalist. We'll be going around spotlighting HBCUs. We'll get a spotlight player or guest on the show each week. Our plans to tackle every HBCU, small and large. So make sure y'all are tuning into that. Me and Michael also. Michael, actually, I'll let you let the guests know about our special guests that we have on the show coming up for our HBCU stuff.
Yes. So Sunday evening at 7:30 p.m. Central Time, we will have our special guest. She's from Howard University. She's Howard's forward by the name of Miss Zayna.
Thomas. And
Yes,
Isaiah
Anaya
Thomas.
Thomas.
Yeah, Zanaya Thomas. Thank you for correcting that for me. She will be our next women's basketball player special guest on our HBCU podcast segment. She will be I believe, she'll be the third special guest. Because, like Deuce said, we had two special guests. They were our first. And what me and Deuce, we're trying to build more and more into this HBCU segment. Like Deuce said, we got the spotlight with Mr. Mark and everything like that in particular. So make sure that y'all stay tuned for that. And like I said, it's 7:30 p.m. Central Time. Me Deuce will be with Miss Thomas from Howard University, which is in Washington D.C. For some of y'all who don't know, will be our special guest Sunday evening.
Also, yeah. And right now we are still trying to work out scheduling with two basketball players. We got UAPB's basketball players. A couple of them are trying to get on the show. We're just trying to plan some times. And then Mississippi Valley, we want them on our show. We got a player that wants to go on our show. Let me see. Also, we're still in contact with the Morgan State player and is Morgan State, and I think we're still in contact about an Alabama A&M player. So we got a lot of players coming on to the show. And also to the ones that are watching, if you want to get on the show, all you gotta do is just DM me or Michael, or you can DM us on our page, HBCU Central Network. But also, let me tell you this: the HBCU stuff is not its own separate thing. And HBCU stuff all is under Inside the Locker Room. Everything that we do separately all goes back to Inside the Locker Room. It's nothing separately. I tell my group this all the time. It is to help the locker room get more, views and help us. And that's what we've been seeing. Adam does his part with the shorts. Ben does his part with the draft. Me and Michael do our part with the HBCU segment. And I did just tell Ben that we are going to be starting up an NFL draft segment too, where we just talk a little bit about the draft. Probably once a week, we just talk like 10 minutes, talk about the draft, throw it out there. And to the ones watching, weekly we're throwing out mock drafts. Make sure you tune into that. Make sure you share that. Our goal is 500 subs. We're trying to get to 500 subs on YouTube. We're at 305 right now. We gained 4 yesterday, so that's good. On Instagram, we're trying to get to 1,000. I don't Adam, have we still been running the TikTok, or is the TikTok?
I've been doing my best on it. Yeah, still pushing to try to get to 20,000 on TikTok. But yeah, it's been a little bit slower trying to regrow it, trying to retrain the algorithm.
Regardless,
just follow all of our socials. Just follow all of our socials. That's what y'all should really just do.
Yeah.
But then you got something to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, regardless on where we are at what time, you guys are gonna see our faces for a very long time. So thank you guys for tuning in once again, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Yeah.
Peace.
Grace and peace, y'all.